Welcome back to Fright Brothers, the final review. Today we'll be diving into Terrifier 2016, a film that left me grotesque yet refreshed. Was it truly terrifying or just another cheap jump scare fest? Let's find out. Terrifier 2016 is directed by Damien Leone and stars David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown, a silent, sadistic mime and serial killer who pleasures himself by taking the lives of others. The film follows two young women on a Halloween night who cross paths with Art. And let's just say they don't make it to November.
This isn't your typical slasher. There's no backstory, no motive, and no redemption arc. Art is just pure evil, and he's the kind of villain who'll saw you in half with a sagittal cut. And yes, that scene is in this movie. Let's just say you've been warned.
We wanted to start off by talking about positives for this film. So, what went well with this film, Ryan?
Okay, so there was not a whole lot with this film that I thought went well. But what I will say is one of the things that I thought was done pretty well in this film was the gore and the makeup effects on some of the kills, because they did look pretty gruesome.
I would have to second that as well. I do believe Damien Leone and his crew did an amazing job with the practical effects and delivering some really realistic kill scenes. I mean, a lot of those kill scenes, especially with the few decapitations, look very realistic, and I'll have to give my hat off to Damien for that. Additionally, I thought that Damien was able to stretch his budget. As we know from our research that this film, they only had around $35,000 to $55,000 budget for this film. So they utilized certain scenes like the pizzeria, stretching it out, using different parts of the actual pizzeria, from the main dining room to the kitchen, back kitchen to the actual bathroom scene, that if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And then additionally, the block. So you have the pizzeria, and then it looks like up the street you have the apartment complex where most of the action takes place. And I like the way that Damien was able to stretch that apartment complex, which didn't look too big, to look much bigger than what it really was, by Tara and Art's scenes and chase scenes in there, and then also with Vicky and Art's chase scenes. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the positive effects of this movie?
See, I really can't think of that much more positive for that film. I mean, it's definitely not one of my favorite in the franchise. I just honestly think it was just the gore that was what carried this film. And I probably agree with you on stretching the budget. That definitely was something that Damien Leone did a good job with, because I mean, $50,000 budget, and then you have a film like that. I mean, and he pretty much did most of the directing and all that stuff on his own. So yeah,
I would also have to add a few notable performances as well, with David Howard Thornton's performance as Art the Clown, and then also with some of the other actors there, like the actor that played Tara as well as actor that played Vicky. Final thoughts about the movie as far as positive things. Well, I would have to tip my hat off to some of the actors. So we know the notorious Art the Clown by now is played by David Howard Thornton. He did an amazing job with emoting, whether it was through the hands and the waving, the smiles, or the prancing around through the apartment complex, or the bag situation that he had. It was a great job. He did an amazing job and really set Art apart from other horror villains that we've seen. Additionally, I would like to note Tara. Jenna Cannell played Tara. She did a great job, especially at that opening part of the film, all the way to about the halfway to the end of the film. Did a great job of having us to believe that Tara would be a final girl. And I was really rooting for her throughout the movie. And then additionally, her sister, played by Samantha Scafidi, Victoria, did a great job as well. I love the way that Samantha Scafidi acted in this film, how she was able to get away from art and really think of her as a final girl too. So those are my positive thoughts about the movie. Okay, next we wanted to move into what didn't work about this movie. What were some of the negative things that you thought of, Ryan?
Well, there's quite a bit with this one. Some of them would be, for one, the acting was not great. You would just see these little awkward pauses with some of the actors and actresses, and you'd be wondering, like, what's going on? The movie doesn't really have a lot of characters. The characters are not developed very well. The story is not really a good story, per se. There's a couple more I can't think of off the top of my head, but those are some things that jump out right now. So
yeah, I would have to agree. This movie doesn't really have a plot behind it, and I believe other different influencers have already mentioned this, but I would like to reference one in particular. Cody Leach mentioned this on his review that I saw about the movie, that the movie is basically kill scene after kill scene after kill scene. So we don't really have a thematic through line or anything like that with this movie. So that was something I felt as though that Damien could have done a better job with actually giving us a through line, building out characters. Most of the characters, in fact all of them, were static characters. In other words, there was no improvement, whether it was moral improvement, whether it was some type of psychological improvement or any kind of changes with the characters. And so with that stated, those kind of left us being desirous of that it didn't have. And then the last thing I was saying, it had some tinge of misogyny. I hate to say this, Damien, but I don't think you're a misogynist, but some of the way that people were portrayed, specifically the way women were portrayed in this movie, seemed kind of misogynistic. Whether it was Tara's kill, if you remember, how many times did she get shot in the head?
At least 4 or 5 times.
4 or 5 times,
yeah.
Maybe even more.
Yeah.
And then we saw Dawn's kill scene, and like
that was brutal.
The cut straight down from one part of herself to the other.
Yeah, that
was kind of a bit misogynistic in my opinion. And then the opening scene where you had Vicky and you had Monica, and there's basically cat fighting involved and gossiping and all that kind of stuff, and then Mamie. And so I really felt like the film had some questions, left us questioning whether or not this film was really for women or against women. So I'll leave it at that. If you have comments about it, especially if you're a woman and you saw this film, be glad to know, because of course I'm a guy, and so I'm just going at it from my perspective of the film. Is there anything else you wanted to add to some of the issues that you saw with this film?
Well, I know we said setting for some of the strengths, and that was mainly for the budget. It did a good job with the setting, but at the same time, the setting was, it was just that one area. You had the pizzeria, you had the back of the pizzeria. There wasn't a whole lot of diversity in the setting, and that's something that I like to have in my horror movies. I like to have, a variety in my setting, and that, this movie didn't really take place anywhere but on a city block. So I'd say that's definitely a negative.
Yeah, and I would say so too. We were really constrained by the movie, even though it did a good job of trying to stretch that block of area. It was constrained by that block of area too. And so that is something that I would agree with you, Ryan, was problematic about the movie. But yeah, those are the things that we saw as kind of problematic. Misogyny, the lack of plot, the lack of character development, and then the constraints for the location of where the movie was filmed. So next we wanted to discuss what was our favorite scene in the movie. So Ryan, what was your favorite scene?
Okay, favorite scene has definitely got to be the scene where Will is looking at the cat lady's little baby doll, and then Art is like right behind him, and he rises up with the Bowie knife and he stabs him like straight in the head. And it's just like, man, like that was a brutal kill, but I'd say that's definitely one of my favorites just because of like how unassuming Will looks and how like naive he looks when he's holding the baby doll. So yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well, I get that for favorite scene. Mine, I would actually say, is one of the few scenes that we see our protagonist triumph in the movie, and that would be when Vicky is being suffocated by Art the Clown with the plastic wrap over her face, and she is able to get out of it by tearing it apart. I really enjoyed that because it showed us the resilience that Vicky has with escaping from Art. So that was my favorite scene in the movie. Now we're going to give our Cujo rating for this film. So what is your rating, Ryan?
Okay, so on our Fright Brothers grading scale, the Cujo grading scale, I would have to give this film a bark, simply because it's a very generic film. It's mediocre. It's not like, it doesn't do anything to set itself apart from other horror films that we've seen. It just doesn't have enough firepower to set itself apart from any horror movies that I've seen. So I'm just gonna go with a bark on this one. What about you, Gil?
Yeah, so I would have to give it a bark. This film was very mediocre. Again, it didn't have a plot. We didn't really have character development, no real themes in the movie, and there were some misogynistic type of tendencies that were displayed in this movie, so I can't really give this film no more than a bark. I would say it leaves a lot to be desired, and we've already seen the other two films, Terrifier 2, Terrifier 3, so we know that there's some improvement by Damien when it comes to some of the issues with misogyny, some of the issues with character development, some of the issues with the plot as well. But for this specific film, if we just look at it, it can't be more than a bark. Hey, Cujo, what do you think?
What do you think, Cujo? What do you think about Terrifier 2016?
Fright fam, I would like to know, what were your thoughts about Terrifier 2016? Would you agree with us as far as the Cujo ratings? Or would you not agree? Also, how about your likes of the film as well as your dislikes? What did you like? What did you dislike? Please put it below in the comment section. Like, comment, subscribe. And what's our next video, Ryan?
Our next video is going to be Terrifier 2. You guessed it.
Awesome. And remember, Fright fam, be watchful.